Hello GPS and boating fans. I am in the ISLA mapping map lab, and today I'm going to talk about something that comes up pretty much every day around here, and that is what unit to get, what unit not to get, and which ones are recommended for the ISLA mapping products. So we probably get a call or 5 calls or so every day from different people making these inquiries. So today I'm going to go through all of this in some detail, and I'm also going to show you some videos on video comparing a 9, 12, and 16-inch unit running the chart, so you can get a clear understanding of why unit sizes matter. So with that said, first thing first, what units work and which units don't work? Right now we're running on the Navico product line. That means Simrad, Lowrance, and B&G. All of these units will run the product except for a few, and those would be number 1, any hook machine; number 2, the Simrad Cruise, which is just a hook in a Simrad box; and number 3, the old Elite HDI machines. The hook machines and the cruise machines do not have the capability to run any maps, my map or anybody else's map, that have pictures. And because our product is based around lots of imagery, it will not run the product. You cannot see any pictures. So if you're interested in one of those units and you want pictures for any map, don't get it. It's not going to work. The software running those machines is probably the least capable in the market, and it's basically an entry-level unit. And the charts that we're going to talk about that we produce are not entry-level charts, and they're not a good choice for ISLA maps. So which units do work? All the other units will work. Any HDS will work under the Lowrance flag. That includes the live, carbon, and all the HDS series, Gen 1 through Gen 3. As long as the software is updated, it should work. The Elite TI2 will work, and even the Elite TI will also work. Under the Simrad flag, all of the Evo series works, the NSO series works, and all of the Go machines are supported and will work in any unit size, 5, 7, 9, 12, and up. There's no difference in the chips. The chips are all the same, and they work the same in all the units. So which units are the best and which units aren't so great? We have people call in every day about the Go machines. So I want to talk about those first to get that out of the way. Will it work on the Go machines? Yes, it does work on the Go units, all of the Go units, 7s, 9s, 12s, and 16s even, if they have that. I don't even know if they make a 16. I know they make a 12. So we never recommend a Go machine because of the following reasons. If you compare the Go machines to any of the other machines, there's no functional advantage whatsoever in terms of how they operate. They're inexpensive for a reason. The 7 and 9-inch units have inferior screen resolution to all the ones that we're going to talk about today later on in the video. Which means that the pictures aren't so clear. They still look good, but they're not as good as the other. But more importantly than that, they load chips from the back of the machine, which I'm not a fan of that. And I guess the biggest reason is functionally they're not as good. So they're touchscreen only machines, and for all of our customers, most of them are inshore boaters. They're running around on plane in some crazy places. Trying to use a Go machine on plane in chop is a real hassle, and it's not an easy thing to do, and I don't recommend it. It's if you're pinching and unpinching all day, you're really going to drive yourself crazy, and that's what you have to do with all of the Go units. Compared to the other units, like the ones behind me, which we're going to look at in a minute, they all have knobs on them. It's really simple to use it, and you can do it easy and even in rough water and get what you need out of the machine quickly. Whereas the touch machine only, any touch machine only, with no buttons and nothing else that you can use to control what you're looking at, you have to pinch and touch the screen, and it's hard to get your fingers where they need to go. So functionally, I think it's poor, for at least for the product that I've created, which is a very, very detailed type of chart. And because it has so much stuff on it, you're going to find yourself messing with the screen a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. So if you're coming from a Garmin, you're coming from Navionics, or any of these other charts that are out there, most of them, I call them general reference applications, because that's pretty much what they are. They're not particularly detailed in a lot of places, and generally the pictures are lower resolution, they're poor quality, and what have you. And because that's the case, you get accustomed to running with these products, and you get accustomed to what they provide and what they don't provide, and you get used to it. And a lot of people will come to us, they've been running these things for years, and they're not really sure about how much different a map can be. Well, it can be much different, very different, remarkably different even. And you don't really know what you know until you know it when it comes to these kind of things, in many cases. And a lot of people just can't relate to that until they see it for themselves firsthand. So when you run with these general reference applications for any period of time, you quickly become accustomed to what you can get out of them and what you can't get out of them. And you're running around in some places inshore the normal route that you would go, or what have you, and you understand pretty quickly what you're going to see and what you're not going to see. And if you zoom in or you zoom out, you only get so much. You're only going to see so much. And so what happens is you come to learn very quickly that in most of the places that you go, if you zoom in more, you don't really get much more in terms of detail. You're not going to learn any more. You're not going to have any better situational awareness than you did just looking out with your eyes in front of the boat. And so you quickly learn that messing with the machine doesn't really get you anymore. Then when you switch gears to ISLA maps, Florida marine tracks, Louisiana marine tracks, and you start zooming in, everything starts to come to life, and all the stuff that you wanted to see, or you were hoping to see, in most cases is there to see, and it's exactly correct. And you quickly learn that if you zoom in more, you generally get more, and a lot more in many cases. You can zoom in most of these cases to 50 feet, and with clarity you can see potholes, the stakes are there, the posts are there, everything that you would like to see on the other charts is there. And so you learn very quickly that that's the case, and you find yourself messing around with the chart, with the screen, the unit, 10 times, 20 times more than you probably ever have before. And for that reason, the ergonomics become very important. And you find yourself touching the screen a lot more than you ever have before, because when you do, you learn more and you can see more. And for that reason, how you operate the machine and the position of the machine on the boat is much more important than perhaps it was in the past. The angle of the screen from your eyes to the screen itself is important. Getting your hand to the screen where it's easy to touch it and you're not reaching for it is important. Much more important than it was with a general reference application that you may have been running, or you're not really messing around with it so much. You're just generally glancing at it here and there to get a general idea of where you're at and the direction that you're going. So that is the view from 10,000 feet in terms of why the general reference applications aren't something that generally get the job done, and most people are very taken aback, if you will, when they start running our stuff and they can start messing around with the machine and getting out of it what they want. So that's the reason I don't recommend the Go machines. It does upset a lot of people. They call me, they've already got their Go machine. They're like, why don't you like it? I can't believe that, I just got it. Well, I'm here just to tell the truth and nothing but the truth about how it actually works out there. So if you have a Go machine, it will work, but if you had one of the ones that we're going to look at in a few minutes, you would like it much better and you would find it to be far easier to use. And that goes for any of the other machines, besides the Go because of the functionality differences. There's also some differences in the machine itself. The screen resolution itself on the Go machines is inferior to most all the other machines, including all the ones that we're going to look at today. The statistics on this can be pretty dramatic. The Go 7, for instance, and the Go 9 are 800 by 480. That is 384,000 pixels. It is, compared to the one behind me, a substantive difference in screen resolution. If you went to from a Go 9 to an Evo 3.9, the Evo 3.9 has 922,000 pixels in round numbers. It's a 50% improvement, and it's pretty remarkable to go from a Go 7 to an Evo 3.9. A Go 9 to an Evo 3.9 is also a very substantive difference. It's to go from I'm sorry, I made the mistake about that. The Go 7 and the Go 9 have 384,000 pixels. Compare that to an Evo 3.9, which is 922,000 in round numbers. It's 140% better improvement, 140% better resolution on an Evo 3.9 versus a Go 7 or a Go 9. 384,000 versus 922,000. And with our pictures, that makes a difference. Does it look good on the Go 7 and the Go 9? If you saw it by itself only, you'd think, hey, that looks pretty good. But if you saw it next to the one we're going to look at here today, behind me, if you saw them side by side, you would not want the Go 7 or the Go 9 compared, because the clarity on the images comes out much better on the higher resolution screens, the more capable screens. And that's the reason that these screens are more expensive, because they deliver far more. So that's the deal. Now, the next thing that comes up is Lowrance versus Simrad. I prefer the Simrad machines because they have the knob on them, and it's much easier to use the knob than buttons. All the other machines have buttons on them, and you have to push a plus button or a minus button to zoom in or out. And I'm not really a big fan of that compared to the knob, but it does work fine. You can deal with it. It's a minor difference, if you will, but if you were running with a knob versus a button, you would definitely prefer the knob, particularly if you're running in rough water. It's much easier to control it. You don't have to know exactly where your finger is. You always know where your finger is on that knob. So that's the deal with Simrad versus Lowrance. The Simrad are generally a little bit more expensive. They're generally a la carte with respect to the accessories, whereas the Lowrance machines are packaged with transducers and things like that. It's a little bit less expensive. So if you're not so budget conscious, you might want to consider the Evo line. Right now, the Evo 3 line is the top of the line. Later on this year, there'll be a new version of that, probably coming out in November or so. A new version of the Evo 3 will be coming out, and it'll probably be similar to what we got, with a few new bells and whistles. I don't know exactly what they'll be. So that's that. Now, with respect to unit size, because we get this question every day, what unit size? And what I hear the most is a bit of specious reasoning. And let me explain. Everyone thinks, or a lot of people think, I only have a small boat, so I only need a small unit. I need a 7-inch unit because I only have an 18-foot boat. That's what I hear every day. And to my mind and my experience, that is a completely specious argument. Let me explain. If you're running around in the kind of places that we've mapped, Hell's Bay, all kinds of crazy places in Mosquito Lagoon, Homosassa, Crystal River, Cedar Key, Steenahatchee, you name it, trying to negotiate tight curves, in the lower keys and all around where you have poor visibility. You need to see things clearly, and you want great situational awareness. it's more important that you have the situational awareness in that kind of situation than it is when you're floating in 500 feet, where it doesn't matter. But for whatever reason, people just ignore this and they think big boat, big unit, boat, small unit. It's really exactly the opposite when you think about it. If you're in 500 feet, if you're off 100 feet from someplace, it doesn't matter. You're not going to run into anything. If you're running on plane at 25 miles an hour through a narrow passage that may not be much wider than your boat, and you can't see that well, and you're looking at the unit, you want to be able to see everything just right. And you don't want to be straining yourself to understand where you're at. And the more you can get off your screen and the easier that you can see it, the safer you're going to be and the happier you're going to be. And so bigger is better. That is the bottom line. That is just the way it is. The bigger screens give you more, and you'll be happier with a bigger screen. Never, even a single time, has anyone ever called in here and told me, hey, I got that 12-inch unit and it's just got to go. It's just too big. That has never, ever happened, and probably never will happen. If you get a 12-inch machine, you will not regret it. It may seem like it's much bigger than what you're used to, but it does work the best, and it will get you more information, and you'll be happier with it on your boat versus a small one. But every day as well, I get a call from someone who tells me that they wish they would have got the bigger one, that they got the 7 and they knew that they were supposed to get a bigger one, that I advised them and all of that, and they went ahead and got the smaller one anyway, because maybe they saw it on their buddy's boat or what have you. But then they realized what it was all about, and it was too late, and now they want to upgrade. So most people who run the fence between a 9 and a 12 who get the 9 always have that bug in the back of their mind, I should have got the 12. And lots of people who run the 7s wish they would have got a bigger machine as well. So with respect to unit size, the smallest I recommend is 9. It will work on all of them, but with the product that I've created, I don't recommend smaller than 9 because of the details that are provided and because of the quality of the imagery that's provided, whereas the better screens have more capability to pull out the details in the pictures. So you're going to see more crisp images on a screen that has 1,000,000 pixels versus a Go unit that only has 384,000 pixels. That's a big, big difference in terms of the way that the pictures appear on the screen. And it's deceptive because if you just saw it on the one screen, the low resolution screen, it still looks a lot better than probably anything that you've seen on the general reference charts, and you'd be, what's not to like about that? Well, there's a lot to unlike about that when you see it about compared to what it could be. It's you know, you only know what you know, and what you don't know, you don't know until you see it for yourself. And so that's part of what we're going to do today, is show the difference between 3 different popular unit screen sizes, and to give you an idea of how it actually looks on the machine. So with that said, let me give you some statistics before I go look at the machines themselves. I'm going to compare the 9 and the 12 and the 16 Evo 3. This is the top of the line machine right now, and lots of people are running 9s and 12s. Hardly anybody's running a 16, but I just pulled it out because it's here, and it has very high screen resolution at over 2 million pixels. It is overkill, but I do run a 16 on an 18-foot boat. I ran a 12 on an 18-foot boat for years, and I just think that is really the sweet spot for almost everybody. Now we have people running 12-inch units on lots of 18-foot boats. We've even got people running 12-inch units on very small boats, side console rigs, 16 feet, and even GNUs. Not because for any other reason except that it provides great situational awareness, and that's what people want. Now, one more thing. A lot of people are concerned about they can't fit it on their boat. There's just no place on the console for it. My read on this is if you can't fit it directly on your console, that's okay. In most cases, I don't recommend that anyway, because you're looking, if you're going to go with these charts, you'd like to get perfect ergonomics if you can. And that means perfect position over your console with respect to the screen and where it is in relation to your wheel and where it is in relation to your throttle. So use an adjustable mount. There's lots of adjustable mounts out there. The ones that we recommend a few, but the one we typically recommend is called the balls out mount, B-A-L-Z-O-U-T. If you Google that, you can look at the mounts that they create. It's very high quality, and they make a few different sizes, but they're very sturdy, and with that, it has a relatively small footprint to your boat, probably only about 4 inches. If you mounted that in the proper location on your console, anywhere, you could configure it to hold really any size unit that you want and float it over your console, and it would give you all kinds of adjustments that you could make so that you have close to perfect ergonomics on the rig. And then if you change your machine in the future, you won't have to worry about any boat repairs either. And having said that, people ask me about flush mounts. Well, I'm talking about this mounts. I never recommend a flush mount for a skiff in almost every case. Very few exceptions do I see a console that's perfectly designed for a GPS. They're usually too far away where you're reaching for it all day, or the angle of the screen in there is just not so great for every condition, because remember, sometimes you're sitting, sometimes you're standing, and you want to be able to adjust the angle for the conditions that you're facing. And with a flush mount, you're stuck. You've only got one angle and one angle only, and in many cases it's not good, and in some cases it's a complete fail. I've been on lots of boats where I put the chip in and you can hardly see the mat because it's a flush mount. I saw it on an old Yellowfin 24. I've seen it on a Hells Bay Marquesa. I've seen it on other rigs where people flush mount it and they're like, I can't deal with this. I'm going to have to get it out of here because I can't see it. And I said, that's right. Many of these consoles, particularly on the older boats, were not set up with GPS in mind. And lots of the boat manufacturers like to flush mount the units when they leave because it looks good. It looks sleek and it looks clean, but it's not particularly the best ergonomics, and they're not really thinking more beyond getting it out the door and making it look good when it leaves the showroom. They're not thinking about how it is in a practical application out there in the water for someone trying to use a GPS. And that's what I'm thinking about. So don't recommend the flush mount. That's my read on that. So with respect to the machines, let's talk about 9, 12, and 16, and also 7. As I have, a lot of people run 7s, and I just think a 7 is just too small. I can't use it. It's just too small for me. I can't see it well. I'll talk about the statistics in the 7, 9, 12, and 16 Simrad machines, the Evo line, which is the sort of the Cadillac. The 7-inch Evo 3 has 614,000 and change pixels, 600 by 1024. That's pretty good, but it's not as good as the 9. The 9 has 720 by 1280. That's 922,000 pixels in round numbers. If you go from a 7 to a 9 Evo 3, you're improving the screen resolution by a factor of 50%. If you go from a Go 7 or a Go 9 to an Evo 3.9, you're improving your screen resolution by a factor of 140%. It's a really big difference to go from a Go machine. So the Evo 3.9 has pretty good resolution. It's almost as good as the 12. But I recommend the 12 for everybody because the screen size difference is substantive. The size of the box itself on your boat, it's not a big difference to go from a 9 to a 12. But the lighted portion of the screen, there is a big difference. And it's a substantive difference as well. And that's why I like the 12. You get a lot more, you can see a lot more out of the 12, and we're going to look at that on the video here in just a second as soon as I rattle off the statistics of the specifications. So with respect to the Evo 3.9, the size of the screen itself, the lighted portion of the screen, the part that actually lights up, it's only 4 3/8 inches from top to bottom, and 8 7/8 inches left to right. So about 4 by about 9. And that seems like it'd be pretty good. But the size of the box is 6.5 by about 11.25. And the lighted portion is about 4 by about 9. And the screen itself is about 39 square inches in terms of what lights up that you actually look at, about 39 square inches. So for most people that's sufficient, it's okay, and it is adequate, and I'm okay with that. But it's not as good as the 12, and here's why. The 12-inch machine, the box size is a little bit bigger. It's about 8 3/4 inches this way and about 13 3/4 inches this way. So the box is a little bit bigger, but the screen size is a lot bigger than the 9. It's much bigger than that. So the screen size, it goes from 4 3/8 this way to 6 3/8. You get about 2 more inches top to bottom, and it's 10 1/4 inches wide. I think it's almost exactly 10 1/4 inches this way for the screen versus the screen on the 9, which is about just under 9 inches this way. And so the screen area goes from 38.8 inches on the 9 to 65.8 inches on the 12. It's 27 more square inches you get going from a 9 to a 12. 27 square inches more. It's a factor of 68% greater screen size to go from a 9 to a 12, only with a little bit bigger box. And I like it. And then the screen resolution is a little bit better. So the Evo 3.9 has 922,000 pixels in round numbers, and the 12 has 1,024,000. It's about 11% better than the 9 in terms of the resolution. A little bit better, not a big difference. It's not hardly anything that you could notice. Now, when you 9 versus 12, all things considered, 12 for ISLA is the sweet spot. It will be fine on the 9, more than adequate. But if you really want to get the most out of the product and be the happiest out there, consider the 12. It's to me, it's well worth the difference. Now, for the few of you that would be interested in even a bigger machine, and we do have a few of those out there that are running 16-inch screens, they're all usually went to a 16 after they had a 12. And they like the 12 so much, they're like, wow, the 16 would be unbelievable. And it is. It's much better than the 12, but it's not necessary. Now, the difference, just because I'm talking about it, when you go from a 12 to a 16, the screen size goes from 65 square inches in round numbers to about 100 square inches in round numbers. It's a factor of about 54% greater screen size, about 35 square inches more to go to a 16. And the screen size is 7.5 inches from top to bottom, and about 13 3/8 left to right. So it's a much bigger screen, and it looks great. The screen resolution is 1920 by 1080 for over 2 million pixels. It's twice the resolution of a 12. It goes from 1,024,000 to over 2 million, a factor of actually 102% more. But it's twice the money in round numbers, and it's not necessary. But if you get it, you definitely will be happy with it. So that is the skinny on the different units and why I recommend 12-inch machines for all of the inshore boats as the sweet spot. They generally are the best performers, and the people that own the 12-inch units are generally the happiest. Not to say that the people that run 7s and 9s aren't happy. A lot of them are very happy. But what I would say to you is that those people, even though they're very happy with their 9s, and a lot of them are 7s, if they saw the bigger screen next to the one that they own, they probably wouldn't like it so much anymore. And that is just the truth of the way it really is. So having said that, I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to pick it up and we're going to go look at some screens and see what it's all about. Okay. This is a view of a Evo 3.9, an Evo 3.12 in the middle, and an Evo 3.16 on the right. They're all running an ISLA mapping chip, and they're all set to exactly the same view of the same chip, zoomed into exactly the same spot. Everything is exactly the same. So I'm going to look at one versus the other so you can get an idea at the same exact zoom level, each machine, what you can see on each one and how that may change as we move the zoom levels around and what you see and how clear the pictures really are. Let me turn the screen off in the back so we don't too confused here. Okay, so the first thing first. This is the Evo 3.9, and you can see this is zoomed in to a zoom level of 500 feet. You can see it right there, 500 feet. It's a place in the lower keys, and this is what the picture would look like on your boat. It's what you would see at 500 feet. And you can get an idea of the kind of, at 500 feet, what you would get in terms of the islands and what you would see on the screen. Over here is exactly the same thing. This one, it's zoomed into exactly the same zoom level with the machine. And that's what you would see there. So you can see that you see two islands up at the top, and you can see a stop sign. This one, you can see a portion of one of the islands, and you can barely see the stop sign. It's almost cut off, so you see a little bit more over here than you do over here. So you have, at the same zoom level, more on your radar screen to see. You can see more around you if you go to the bigger screen at the same exact zoom level. Now over here on the 16, again, it's exactly the same thing. You see everything. Not only do you see all of both of the islands, you can see a lot more of everything. Again, it's all exactly the same zoom level. So going to the bigger screens, you get more. You get more. So let's zoom in now, and you can see I've got my thumb on the knob. And if you can picture yourself having this on your boat, driving with your left hand and your right hand on the screen, just like I've got here, where you're not really reaching for it, your thumb is just on it. You can do this. Okay, you can see how fast that is. You can do this on the, no matter what kind of chop you're running through or whatever, you're always going to be able to do this and get your boat, if you're trying to go to those posts and you're lining up to get there, and you want to make sure you hit it because you can't see well and your boat is trying to run on that track, it's very easy to do this while you're running. Now if you have a machine that's got buttons, you're going to have to push button A or push button B and make sure your finger is on the right button, a plus button or a minus button, to do the same thing, and you'll have to make sure you got your finger on the right one. But again, it's not a big deal as long as you know if your finger's on the plus or the minus. Now if you don't have a machine of buttons or knobs, the only way to make that happen is you're going to have to do this all day. And sometimes when you're bouncing like this and you're trying to get your fingers and you're trying to make it do it, you can't get exactly what you want out of it, and it's a real chore to do it. And sometimes if your fingers are wet and you try to make it do it, it may not respond exactly when you want. That could happen if you're out in some rain or something like that. So all these are exactly the same. You get this kind of response. It's very fast, and that's what you want. You don't want any delay. The machines that have the buttons have a little bit of a delay when you push them, It's not as fast as this, with the one exception being the brand new Lowrance Live machine. It's about just as fast as this. It has a quad core processor, and when you push the plus button or the minus button, it will zoom that fast. When you push a button, it'll do that. The older machines, the HDS series and the Carbon, when you push a button, you get about a half a second delay. But on all of these Evo machines, it is very, very fast, and no one ever really has an issue with it. And no one really has an issue with the buttons either. It's a very minor difference, but they do all work fine. But this is really the best way to go, in my opinion, the knob. And I think most of my customers that call me, that they have the knob, they'll all agree that the knob really is the best. So anyway, this is the 12-inch in the middle, and this is what I would recommend I think this is the sweet spot. It will fit on your boat if you use an adjustable mount. No problem at all. You're just going to have to get it on there, and it will definitely get the job done. If you put a 12-inch on your boat, you won't regret it. You'll be able to see everything that you want to see. You'll be able to go anywhere you want to go in any kind of lighting conditions. You can run on the GPS itself in the black and night if you wanted to, and get through any place you wanted to go. Like if you were here, this is down in Biscayne Bay, you wanted to make this run, this is all exactly correct. You could run through there and do this with your finger. You know, bouncing around through the waves, no problem, whatever you had, wind, what have you. It's easy to run that and make sure that you are exactly where you need to be, hitting that little channel there through that flat. So that is the skinny on what unit to get and unit sizes. I wanted to do this video to sort of document that, since we get so many questions about it and there's a lot of confusion out there about it. So anyway, that is all I have to say about it. Feel free to share with your friends, and happy boating.